ಹಂಗೆ ಇರ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡು.
Hello.
ಅದು ಅದೇ ಇರೋದು, ಅದೇ ಇರೋದು.
Please keep your mic muted. Srinivas.
ಹಾ, ಶುರು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಈಗ, ಶುರು ಮಾಡು.
Srinivas.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದನ್ನ ಆಫ್ ಮಾಡು. ಮಾತಾಡಿ, ಇವಳು ಶುರು ಮಾಡು.
Hello.
Hi, sir.
Yes. Yes. Akash. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I'm not able to switch on my camera because of
नहीं
some
नहीं अभी
setting.
नहीं नहीं अभी जिनका अभी there is a एक second I turn off all video. Somebody started video so yeah please check now. Yes.
Yes, sir. It's working.
Sure. We'll be starting in next 1 minute. People are joining.
Sure, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I extend my warm greetings to each and everyone present here. It's my proud privilege to welcome the speaker for the last session of this course, Akash Gupta sir. Before we start, I would like to introduce sir in a few words. Akash Gupta sir is an assistant professor and assistant director of the Center for Alternate Dispute Resolution at the Jindal Global Law School, where he specializes in teaching arbitration courses. Additionally, he is a visiting faculty at the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore, where he teaches an elective course, Advanced Course in Arbitration, Setting Aside and Enforcement of Arbitral Awards. We welcome you, sir. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome back after yesterday's session. So today we are going to discuss the strategies, skills, and attributes. So more of this session will be my experience as a mooter and also my experience as somebody who has been judging moot competitions for the last 5.5 years. I have judged quite a few moods by now. So I'll be sharing some of my insights that how you should prepare for these competitions in a better way. So let's start first with a question. What do you think? Do you think moot courts are all about citing case laws and authorities in the memorial rounds or the oral rounds? Or is it something beyond this or something in addition to this? Anyone who wants to answer this? Now, because you have covered so many different things like reading mood problem, how you draft memo, you have discussed how to prepare yourself for the oral rounds. So now let's talk about this. This is the elephant in the room we have to address. That is it all about citing case laws, citing you know memo page numbers, or let's say looking at different journal articles, and you keep on citing them. Is this how it should be, or is it something which is also there? I'm not saying that this is a part of it or not. My question is it only this, or is it in addition to something else also? What you should have. Okay. Now I see an answer on the chat box. Okay. It's plus convincing the judges that you can argue better. Okay. So one person, KD, is saying that it's your convincing skills, how better you argue. Okay, that's one. What else? Let's start this conversation because now you have talked about so many different things in the different 5, 6 sessions. So let's talk about what are the other things which you have to keep in mind. Only then we can, talk about how do you, create more like a strategy for, preparing yourself for the next competitions. Anyone else wants to add? Okay, Rafik is saying plus presenting ourselves. Yes, that's also there. What else? Okay, Michelle is saying knowledge about the case plus presentation. Okay, knowledge about the problem and then how you present it. Yes. What else? Jitisha is saying moot courts are tools to shape the lawyers we will be in future. Yes, true. Of course, when you go to the court after you graduate, it will not be as easy as it is in a moot competition, but at least the genre will be pretty much similar. Okay. Shiva is saying teamwork is something which is also there. Okay. What else? Anything else which you want? I'll give you a scenario for this. Let's say that you have a lot of good case laws, okay, in your oral rounds. For every issue, you have 10 case laws, and whenever somebody asks you a question, you say that these are the 5 cases which is answering this. Is that enough to refer to cases, or there is a step after that also? What would you be saying for that? Okay, Shruti is saying putting across a point in such a way that it is understood. True, okay? That you have to put yourself in the shoes of the judges and you have to make them understand what you are saying. Because sometimes there is a gap in the communication also. That's true. So, what do you think? Citing cases, citing authorities, is that something where we should stop, or is that some steps even after that? Anyone who wants to unmute and tell me like what should be the next steps? Yes, pause between the sentence. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, now let's keep this question in the back of your mind when we go ahead with the next part of these slides. And I'll tell you exactly how it is something which is beyond these minimal steps. I'm not saying that citing case laws and authorities is not required. All I'm saying is there are steps even after this. Okay. Okay. Now, when you use case laws and you use a lot of journal articles that actually showcase your legal research. If you look at the scoring guidelines of any of the moot competitions, you get 20% marks for your legal knowledge. So for 20% marks, you get good marks, right? Because you have the knowledge of the case laws, you have the knowledge of the authorities. But that's only 20%. Apart from that, there are marks, for example, your presentation, your teamwork, all of this, time management. Now, how do you get points for that? So, understand this. Mere using case laws for authorities is not the end game. You have to go to the next steps, which is you have to read the problem. When you cite a case and you want to focus on that case, you have to differentiate or note down the similarities in between the case at hand, the problem, and that case. Okay? And then you have to conclude why you are referring to that particular case. You have to lay down why it is relatable, why is it important to cite this case. You can't just say that there have been 5 cases in the Supreme Court relating to murder, A, B, C, D, E, and therefore we use this because that's a bird eye view. You understand what is a bird eye view? Like, how a bird looks at the building from the top, right? That's the bird eye view. But that's very basic. When you use a case law, you have to use it effectively. That's how the case laws have to be used. That's the reason why you must have seen in the international moot competitions, especially the knockout rounds, if you go to the YouTube and you see the finals, they do not use a lot of cases. Why? Because if you just refer to cases, it's called bomb dropping. Like you have something called bomb dropping, there is something called case dropping. You're just dropping the cases. When you drop the cases, it doesn't mean anything. Why? Because you're not adding any conclusions, statements from that. You're not laying down why is it necessary to use this case, what is the use of referring to this case. That's case dropping, right? So it's a red flag. Second is that you should use the case laws effectively, and you have to make the similarities and the differences. You have to carve out this with respect to the problem. Now, one other thing which we as a students miss is the effective use of the problem, including the exhibits. So we start writing the memo using cases, journal articles, authorities, Supreme Court, High Court, but we do not use the problem. For example, if the problem is based on a sales contract, we're not referring to the contract, but we are referring to the Indian Contract Act. We are referring to the Arbitration Act. We are referring to the case laws, but we are not referring to the problem. Understand this. What is moot competition? A moot competition is a simulation. It's a case problem given to you, and you have to write the memos from claimant as well as the respondent side. Okay. Then you have to argue it. But all of this exercise of memorandum, memorial, and the oral round is based on that problem. If you are not referring to the problem, you're not using the problem in your memorials, you're not using the problem during the arguments, you're missing the elephant in the room. So you have to refer to the problem. Okay, that's one part. Some of the problems, especially when you look at Stetson, Jessup, Weiss, FDI moots, you will see that the problems are very lengthy. It's almost around 50, 60, 70 pages. They have a lot of exhibits, witness testimony, expert reports, all of this. You have to make sure that you refer to them because effective use of the problem is also one of the criterion to be marked. Okay. So this is something which you have to keep in mind. Now, before we move to the next points, any questions so far on the yesterday's session on whatever we discussed in the last 5-10 minutes? Meanwhile, I see some comments on the chat box. Michelle is saying too many citations is taxing and time consuming. True. And it doesn't add weight to your presentation because you are using a lot of cases, but it doesn't mean anything, right? So it's time consuming. It's very confusing. Third, it also opens the Pandora box of asking questions from the judges. Because let's say if one of them is very good with one of the cases, they will start asking random questions from that case which is not even related. Okay? So you should avoid these things. Shruti is saying ensuring that the problem in question is addressed through all those citations and case laws. This is true. I'm saying that yes, you should address. It's just that you have to blend problem with your citations and cases. You can't just use citations and case laws without referring to the problem. I'll give you an example for this. The same example, sales agreement and the problem, arbitration clause, and then there is a breach of contract. If I have to argue validity of the arbitration clause, this is how I will start. I'll start with, let's say, section 13 of the sales agreement, which provides for the arbitration clause within the sales agreement. Then I'll say that this provides an obligation on both the parties to undergo arbitration if there exists any dispute. However, one of the parties not submitting to arbitration. Therefore, party A has approached the court under section 8 or under section 9 for an interim measure, under section 11 for an appointment of arbitrator. This is how you should structure it. First, you have to refer to the problem. Because understand this, what is the law for the parties? The law for the parties is the contract, the contractual terms. Only if there is an ambiguity, only if there is a confusion relating to the interpretation of the contractual clause, you refer to the applicable law, which is the Indian contract. But where do you get all of this information? You get it from the problem itself. You do not get all of this basic information from a case law. Case law will give you the basic information, the judgment from what is applicable in that particular case. The judgments will not help you to understand the problem right here. For understanding the problem, to know where is section 13, where is the arbitration clause entered into, you have to go to the problem itself. Okay. Any questions so far? Yes, Divya. Divya, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Divya, are you there? I hope participant you are able to unmute yourself.
Any other questions so far?
I think there is no question.
Okay. Now let's go to the next part. In some of the moot competitions, what I have seen is that the three participants are sitting on a table and speaker one, speaker two, and the researcher starts a conversation during the rounds and they start whispering. Please understand this. One, it's unprofessional. Two is that you can always use chits to write and pass it to your teammates. Three is that it's very demeaning to the other side if they are arguing. So whispering during the rounds is a red flag. If it is very important for you to convey something, you can always carry these chits and you can write and paste it on the teammate's desk. Okay, now let's talk about the last point. Do you think the student participants in moot competitions should carry visiting cards? What do you think? Okay. So three of you said no, but let me give you my experience. For the first time when I went to my first international moot, I went to this Hong Kong, and there I saw this way back in 2015, 16, that everyone used to carry a visiting card. In the Indian national moots, not necessary, not the trend, but when you go for international moots, this is what I should be telling you guys, because this is what the essence of this training program, that you should know what things are happening. So in the international moots, especially moots like this, it's a trend, it's a normal practice to carry visiting card, because It's 400 teams in Vienna, it's 200 teams in Hong Kong. It's very difficult for you to remember names from China, names from Korea if you come from India. And it's the vice versa for them. So everyone carry a visiting card where you write more like, Akash Gupta, law student, Tamil Nadu National Law University, instead of writing first year, second year, because then you can't use the card again and again. So this is something which I got to know personally when I went to visit Hong Kong. So I wasn't carrying any business card at that point of time because I was unaware. But then the next year I went to West Vienna, I got this, and still people use it. So this is one of the things which I wanted to share, that please look for, you know, these things on LinkedIn, or let's say talk to people who have done those moods, because some things it's very difficult for you to actually find it out from the official website. So you have to make sure that you do your own research into what you should do, how you should prepare, whether there is a common practice of something like this, how you should network. All of this is something which you have to do it on your own, unless until you have a coach or you have a mentor who has actually done that move and will tell you all of this personally. So this is something which you should keep in mind and understand, especially when you are going for an international mood. Not necessarily for the national moods, but if you are looking to participate in international moods, all of this needs to be done. Okay, now let's go to the next point. So we referred briefly to the eye contact part in the last session. Whom you should make an eye contact with. One is that when you are arguing, let's say there are three judges, you have to make sure that you make an eye contact with them. That is, of course, recommended. The reason is, the reason why I want to stress on the eye contact event today, because some of us have a habit. Let's say if there are three judges, one of the judges asking too many questions, you make an eye contact only with that person, right? So do you think that you should make an eye contact with all the three persons, or only the person who's asking question? What do you think? Okay. Katie is saying that all, Shiva is saying all. But it's only one judge who's asking question. So when somebody asks me a question, I'm making an eye contact with them. Why should I make eye contact with the other two? Because they are not even asking questions. Why is that I should make an eye contact with them? Okay. Shiva is asking how to make eye contact simultaneously with three judges. Okay, I'll tell you one of my experience. One of my friend, when I was doing the Moot, we were in a pre-moot, and so there were three judges, and in one of the round, the feedback was to my teammate that you are not making an eye contact with all the three. You are looking at one of us. So in the next round, what my teammate did is exactly what Shiva is saying, that how to make eye contact simultaneously with three judges. So what my teammate did, so let's say there were three judges sitting. So throughout the rounds when he was arguing like something like this. Members of the tribunal, my name is Akash Gupta. So, you were trying to make an eye contact constantly with all three of them. Do you think that is recommended? Because I get your question, Shiva, that it's very difficult to make an eye contact with three. Does that mean that you should do like a robo like this? No. Okay. Now, how do you do that? First question is, all three or one? Of course, you guys are right that you have to make an eye contact with all three of them. True. Now, if let's say one of the judges asking too many questions, the other two are silent judges. You don't have to do something like this, a constant eye contact, but you have to make sure that you make an eye contact with them at some point of time when you are answering the question or when you are arguing, to make sure that the other two don't feel that, or in the Gen Z language, these two judges shouldn't, feel FOMO, right? They shouldn't feel left out. The reason why is it important to have an eye contact is because all the three judges are going to mark you out of 100. Please don't think the judge who is going to ask a lot of questions is going to mark you out of 300 and the other judges are just sitting there. No. All of them have an equal scoring power. 100 plus 100 plus 100. So please don't give FOMO to the two judges who are not asking questions. Because if one of them don't like this and they are of the opinion that you were very disrespectful because you were not looking at them, you are not making an eye contact, maybe just because of this they'll mark you. One bad round, you are out of the competition, you are not going to the knockouts. Let's understand this first. Okay. Now, eye contact with the judges, I will recommend it. Not very mechanical, it should look organic. And let's say if one person is asking too many questions, still you have to make an eye contact with the other two. Not mechanically, it shouldn't be very visible that you are trying to make an eye contact, but it should be organic. The second part is with the opposing teams when they argue. So usually you know how the setup is, like the judges are in the middle, on both the sides there are two teams. Now, let's say if my opposing team is arguing on the podium. So let's say if I'm one of the participants, right? And you are my judge. So when I'm sitting, my face is towards the judge. The podium is, let's say, somewhere this side where the other team is, other team member is speaking. So what do you think? Should I make an eye contact with the speaker of the other team or not? That's the question. Let me tell you this, that majority of the students do make an eye contact. They look at the other team when they are arguing. But what do you think? Do you think that's a good strategy to do, to follow? Why not? Isn't it respectful that I'm listening, looking at the speaker of the other side? What's the issue? Because if I don't look at them, it looks a bit disrespectful when they are speaking. Okay, Michelle is saying that making eye contact can be intimidating at some times. True. What else? Some of these students also do this. Can you do this to listen to the opposing counsel like this? What do you think? You are just listening to the opposing team's argument. What do you think? You are making an eye contact, you are, you know, having this body language. Is it something which you recommend? Guys, please understand this. One is you shouldn't look at them because sometimes it's intimidating. That's one. Second, you are not arguing in front of the team. You are arguing in front of the bench. Okay. So you have a duty to make an eye contact to the bench, not to the other team. Second, sometimes it becomes a bit intimidating. Third, you also make facial expressions which look really bad when you are looking at the other team and you make facial expressions. Okay. And listening is different than watching the other party from the eyes. It's not necessary that you have to do this. You can still listen, right? So this is something which is not recommended. Understand this. When you are in an ADR competition, you are negotiating or you are mediating. You sit opposite to each other. You talk to each other. That's where the eye contact is required, right? But in the moot competitions, you're not doing that. You are arguing in front of the bench. Okay. So this is why it's not recommended. Michelle is saying, just listen with a poker face and think about your reply to answer that. Yes, you can also make notes. Dibisha is saying, facing the judge. Yes. Shiva is saying, other team can be distracted. Exactly. Now, this is my 2 cents on how you should do better eye contact and what your strategy should be to do this. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. Active listening is more like, instead of just hearing, you are listening, you are understanding what the other person is saying, you are making notes, especially when, let's say, you are a responding party, you make notes of the things which you have to reply in the rebuttal or the other party is lacking. Or let's say there are some very good cases, authorities which you guys are missing out from that particular claimant side. So you start writing notes, but don't overdo this. Second, at some points when you organically nod, that is fine. But I have seen some teams, let's say if you are my teammate and you are speaking, and every time whatever you are referring to, and I do you think it's recommended? That doesn't look organic, right? Of course, in the movies, it looks very good when somebody does that or people start clapping in the court and all. But this is something very unprofessional. So, nodding sometimes, somewhat is fine. But don't overdo this. Not every time you should nod. Let's say if there is something once or twice, it's a very strong point, the tribunal accepted the argument, you nod once, it's fine. Okay. But please don't overdo this, or don't overdo the note part also, that everything what anyone is arguing, even if it is not a very important point, you are just writing notes. That means that you are just writing, or passing some jokes to your teammates. So please don't overdo this. Okay. Here comes the important part. So I have just more than 100 competitions as of now. And sometimes I have seen students are very enthusiastic, and sometimes they become very emotional with their arguments. You have to detach your emotions when you enter into the mood setup, especially during the oral rounds. So what happens whenever somebody gives you a feedback? You, because you are very emotional with your preparation, with your strategies, with your oral submissions and all of this, you start arguing with the judge in the feedback session, and you start explaining that no, you are saying this, but actually I did the other way because I thought it should be like this. Please understand this. I'm not saying having a conversation about what you felt is not right. All I'm saying is majority of the judges will take it in a negative way. If they have marked you before the feedback, very good. If they haven't marked you before this, high chances that this is going to reduce your marks if you start having an argument with the judge in the feedback. So I'm somebody who has been trained by Professor Patricia Shaughnessy, and she said this: you just have to say two words in the feedback session. Thank you with a smile. If you have personal questions, individual feedbacks, you are not able to get more clarity, you can always come back to the judge after the rounds, in the networking lunch, networking dinner, LinkedIn, anywhere. That's totally fine, right? Instead of getting into an argument at the feedback session, because that's something which can affect your marks. A lot of us don't think this because we become very enthusiastic at that point of time. Let's say that we argued something which was very close to our heart, but the bench didn't like it. And then we start explaining why you should like it in the feedback. Now, just to explain this situation, let's say that I ask you a question. You give me your best possible answer. I don't like it. Do you actually think your second best answer or your third best answer, reasoning, will convince me? Think practically about this. If your best answer is not able to convince me, your second best, third best answer will never, convince me, right? So that's something which you should avoid. Okay. Don't get into a heated exchange with your judge during the feedback. Say thank you with a smile. Write notes of the feedback. Okay. This is where I say that after the rounds, you should network with the judges and the other teams also. Okay. You may ask for specific feedback after the rounds during the networking lunch or dinner if you didn't get any in the feedback session. So please feel free to reach out to your judges. You can connect them on LinkedIn and all. You can ask them questions. You can ask them where should I improve, how I should improve. If you have specific questions with respect to the oral advocacy style, that's of course you can ask. It's just that if you are going to the knockouts and they are prelims judges, they can't actually talk about the substantive parts of the problem. But feedback is very important. When they give you a feedback, you have to make sure that you write all the feedback. Sometimes these students say that I get a feedback, but the feedback was not even useful. I say this: Let's say there were 10 points. I'm sure that at least 2 points would be useful. But please make sure that you write all the 10 points and then you chalk out what are the constructive criticism of your session, and then you start working on that. I'm not saying 10 out of 10 pointers will be constructive criticism. Some of them you'll be like, this is something which I already know, or this is something, it's not useful. But at least 2 points or 3 points out of 10 will be there. Sometimes if you get a good judge, maybe 10 out of 10. But you have to note down the feedback. You have to review the feedback. Then you have to start working on the feedback. This is how you improve. Okay. Now, Shiva is asking how to understand whether the judge is satisfied with our answer or not. You can understand this with the line of questioning. Let's say if I ask you a question, you give me an answer. Within the 30 seconds, I say, Counsel, please proceed to your next point. It means that I understood what you wanted to say and I want to save your time. Okay? Because if I'm not convinced, I'll ask you some more clarification. But when I said, okay, it's fine, please proceed to your next point, it means I already know that you know the answer. Some of the judges, like at least I can talk about me in this. If I understand that you know the answer, I'll stop you right there and I'll say, please proceed to your next point because I don't want to waste your time. I know that you know the answer because the keywords which you used in the first 10-20 seconds, I know that you know it. So I don't want to, give you some room to just waste time with explaining that answer. So I'll just say, please proceed. But let's say if my facial expression is like, I look confused and I'm talking to the other judge, or let's say I'm saying, but what does this means? Or where do you get this from? Now, this line of questioning means that I'm not convinced. So you have two possible ways. One is that if you're of the opinion that you lost this particular point, you just go to your next point. You can't stick to your ego that you have to spend another 5 minutes on this because you lose out points. Please understand this. When we mark you, we don't mark you from 0 to 100. We mark you from 100 to 0. If, let's say I start from 100, you get stuck at a point, I just put -10. For 5 minutes, you are stuck at one point, which means that you haven't practiced well. You don't know how to move to your next point. So I'll just put -10, which means 100 to 90 is already done. Now from 90, it depends how well you argue because you get stuck for 5 minutes. Now all of this is something which is visible through my line of questioning. Okay. How do you know what is line of questioning? When you do practice, right? When you have done moves, please don't think you don't do practice rounds and then you directly go to a competition and you become the winner. Now, this is also very subjective. It also depends on the moot competition. Which moot competition are you going? There are regional moot competitions, there are national moot competitions, there are international moot competitions in India. Then there are international competitions in Vienna and Hong Kong, where there are 400 teams. Winning a moot competition is very subjective. If there are 12 teams participating somewhere in India, it's a regional moot. You win that, that doesn't mean that you are going to win in Vienna. Because in Vienna, getting into top 64 is more like winning a international moot because only 64 goes to the next round out of 400. And it's very cutthroat competition. So all I'm saying is, how do you actually make sure that you go to the next round? It depends on practice rounds. The more you practice, the more you refine, the more you improve. It's as simple as that. There is no shortcut for this. Okay. Now let's go to the next part. Handling competition stress and pressure. Let's address this here. A lot of us think that maybe there are some students or some participants who didn't face this pressure or stress. Everyone does. Okay, so let's address this. All of us feel the stress and pressure when we go for these competitions. When I used to go for West Hong Kong or West Vienna, when I did West Vienna from Stockholm University, all of us have to go through this. It's something which is normal for all of us. It's just that how do you actually make sure that you don't get into the vicious cycle of this? Everyone has this nervousness when you get into this moot room, right? Before the oral rounds. Everyone has this. How do you handle this? How do you become more confident about this? So let's understand why people, some students feel huge amount of stress and pressure. Now, somewhat stress and pressure, nervousness, or pressure what will happen in this mood, that's fine. But some people actually day night think about this, that what will happen and all of this. Now this is something which starts from something like this, that you are constantly participating in mood competitions, you are not making it to the knockouts. You start doubting yourself that you are not doing good, and you get into a vicious cycle of stress because you feel a lot of pressure because you have done 5 6 moods, and then you are not able to make it to the knockouts. One of the frequent reason for this is that because you are not improving yourself. When I say you are not improving yourself, you are not doing practice rounds, you are not writing feedbacks, you are not working on the feedback. So if you are not improving, how can you make it to the knockouts? There is no good team, smart team, or bad team. Teams who have prepared well, they have done practice notes, they have done practice rounds, they have done, they have got the feedbacks, they have started working on the feedback, are good teams. Teams who haven't done this are bad teams. There is nothing like good team or bad team. It's more about who is more trained, who is lesser trained. Okay, and a lot of students do not understand this, and this was actually one of the reason why Kalpesh sir, VMSCL college, the professors from there, when we had a meeting, so the professors from Salgaonkar College actually asked me to focus on this part, that a lot of us don't know how do you actually handle this. So there is only one way to handle this. Instead of thinking or procrastinating these things, you have to start focusing and working on how do you improve, how do you prepare well for these competitions. The moment you start preparing yourself in this manner, instead of stress and pressure, this will convert into confidence. The moment you start getting the confidence, when you get into the room, instead of feeling the stress and pressure because you have done it so many times, you have done so many practice rounds, you feel confident. You already know that what are the questions will be like, what will, because you already have a frequently asked questions prepared. You already know the answers. Maybe one or two questions you don't know, but 90% of the questions you already know. So what you should do in that case, you have to prepare in this particular way. Now, this it was the strategy that I wanted to convey to you. You have to be good with the problem. You have to be good with the case laws. You have to do practice sounds. You have to do practice with your coach, mentor, senior, junior. You have to record yourself. Okay. You have to make sure that you have a good body language. You are respectful to the judges. You are answering the questions correctly. You are answering it in a concise manner. Now, what should you do on the day of the competition? Please understand this. Some of us don't realize this, but what we start doing is we practice too much on the eve of the competition. Please don't overdo things one day before the competition, like your exams. You have to make sure that you have a good sleep, you eat well, you sleep well, and then you reach the venue on time. Don't do a lot of practice or anything. You should just keep one piece of A4 paper where you have all the bullet points because you have prepared well in advance. So don't stress too much, don't do a lot of things, don't talk too much about the problem, don't change your structure one day before. Whatever is your original plan, you have to stick to that. Okay, so this is a very simple thing which you should follow on the day of the competition. So please don't stress, please don't overdo things, change your structure. Let's say you hear one of the opposing team during coffee that there is a new case. Don't start, changing everything. Okay, so you have to stick to your original plans because that is what you have been working for the last 2 3 months. Okay, sorry, somebody has raised the hand. Is there a question? Okay. Now, some insights on judging the mood competitions. If some of you, at some point of time, you start judging. So these are some of my observations and suggestions that the judges should also read the problem and should read the bench memo. If there is no bench memo, they should make sure that they understand what is the subject matter, what are the cases, and what are the important facts that's going to be relied upon by the participants. Unless until you do this part, problem, case brief, bench memo, or the important cases, facts, there is no way out that you can ask questions. unless until you are aware of the problem and the case laws. So you have to be very good with this. And I always recommend to ask questions, because unless until you ask questions, you can't test the patience and the preparation of the students. Let's say if I don't ask you any questions in the 14 minutes, you have a script ready which you have memorized. You will come and just deliver that extempore speech. But when I ask you a question, let's say you are at issue 1, I ask you a question of issue 3. I test you that whether you know it or not. So asking questions is very much recommended. It's just that we have to be very polite while we do this. We shouldn't be, engaging in a heated exchange. So you have to follow this. Okay. So Patil sir is asking me to explain a little more about bench memo. Now, in the Indian competitions or also the international competitions like WIS or JESSUP, the organizers create a document, okay, a PDF file where they have what is called a bench memo, which is like this. The bench memo provides the important facts. Let's say even if it's a 60-page problem in JESSUP or WIS, you'll get the crux facts, the important part of the facts in 2 pages, 3 pages max. Some of the organizers also differentiate facts which are useful for claimant side, facts which are useful for respondent side. Important facts are given. Then issue-wise, issue 1, 3 to whatever cases which are the important one, which is going to be relied upon from both the sides, claimant, respondent, and what are the important facts tallying with that particular facts. Which means if you don't have time to read the full problem and you are a judge, so let's say if you are invited to judge WIS pre-moot in Jindal. Jindal conducts the WIS pre-moot. This time I think it's a very old tradition in Jindal. It's almost more than 10 pre-moots that we have conducted. So it's more like a practice moot. So Jindal also creates this bench memo. Now this bench memo, if you don't have time to read the full problem of 60, 70 pages of the WIS, you can just read the bench memo, which will include important facts, important cases, important articles, issue-wise. Issue 1, whatever are the important points, it's already given. So if you just read that part, you are very good to go as a judge and you can ask questions. Some of the briefs also provide a list of FAQ, frequently asked questions. There's a list of question issue-wise. I think it's in JESSUP, where you find FAQs also. Now, this bench memo is something which is strictly confidential and has to be kept by the judges. It shouldn't be shared to the students. This is the rule. Okay. So, because this has a lot of details so basically this bench memo provides what should be expected from the student participants. So the judges can get an idea and it prepares them well in advance, and it's not a very lengthy document. Okay. So this is what I call the bench memo. So when you have to argue in the oral rounds, you have to preempt what are the things which are going to be in the bench memo. Let's say if you are having a moot problem on arbitration, and the problem is based on stamping requirement of the arbitration agreement. If you are not using the 7-judge bench decision of the Supreme Court and in Global 3, there is no chance that anyone can make a bench memo without that. If you are not using that particular case law in your arguments, you are missing the elephant in the room, right? So you have to preempt that what are the things which are going to be in the bench memo. Because understand this, some of the judges only read bench memo. If your arguments do not tally with the bench memo, they are clueless at what are you arguing. So you have to preempt this. Once it's a match with the bench memo, you get more points because they have read that and you are using similar set of cases. So this is what I mean, the bench memo. When you start judging competitions, you'll get those in your emails well in advance that this is the bench memo for, this particular move. This is quite a practice all over the globe, including India. Even national moots provide for bench memo. Now, the last part is, let's say if some of you are judging the competitions, you should provide individual feedback, and I will highly recommend that. And this should be made mandatory, because unless until you provide a feedback, the students are going to have only a bad experience, no learning experience. Understand this, why I say this. If they don't know where they went wrong, how will they improve? If, Let's say you are the judge, you are not giving them feedback. How do they know that what are the things they have to work on? What are the reasons why they didn't make it to the next round? Why they actually didn't go to the next round? Why they lacked some marks? So always try to provide individual feedback. I can understand in some of the competitions, the competition is running late and then you don't have time. The organizers say that you shouldn't give feedback because it will take too much time. You have to, go chop chop, blah blah blah. But understand this. At least try to give that, and at least give them your contact details or your LinkedIn profile or whatever it is, so that they can come back to you and you can give them an individual feedback. But it's also the vice versa. Some of these students are, not very much interested in hearing the feedback because they just get exhausted by the time it reaches the feedback stage. But this is my request to these students, that you should always give a lot of weight to the feedback, because that competition, that session is over. But for the next set of competitions, next set of oral rounds, if you get some good feedback, high chances that you work upon them and then you excel. I have just some competitions in which, I see some teams participating and getting knocked out in the prelim rounds, and then I meet the same students and they win a lot of competition and they come back to me and say that, you don't remember, but you gave me a lot of feedback individually long back 1 year or 2 year before. So this is something which is actually very useful for these students. So I will say it's from both the sides. The judges should spend some time to give feedback, individual feedback. It shouldn't be like general, because then you don't get to understand who did what, right? So even if it's short feedback, individual feedback, that is also fine. And for the student side, you should actually, even if you do not get the feedback in the feedback session, you can always meet the judge, during the networking lunch or dinner, or you can actually get their contact details and ask them for some clarifications. So this is something which, I wanted to talk to you guys, and I complete my session here. And now I open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions relating to this or relating to this whole training program, any questions, for example, about memorial or about research or oral rounds or strategies, please feel free to ask any questions relating to moods. So let's spend some next 10 minutes and then we stop. So I don't see a question. So maybe my lecture was excellent, that you understood everything.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Akash, for great session. I would say perfect end. I would say of this particular program. And Dipisha, you can unmute and ask, or you can take a question from Shiva also. How many months are required to prepare for a moot court? And Dipisha, over to you.
I have a very funny answer for this, the lawyer answer. Well, it depends. I can't tell you the exact time frame. I'll give you the background why I say this. If let's say that there is a moot competition, so this is something which happened with me. Dipsha, I'll just come to you. I'll give you the floor. I'll just wrap this question and then I'll give you the floor. So this is something which happened with me. I was in final year of Tamil Nadu National Law University, and there was a state moot court competition happening in collaboration with the government of Tamil Nadu, and it was in Chennai. So there was no team participating from my law school, and the MCS asked me to sign up for that because we were the only national law university of that state. So we had to participate. We got this notification 4 days before the competition. So we had to submit within 24 hours, 48 hours the memo, and then we have to go physically and argue it, where we also got the runners up. Now in that moot, you don't get a lot of time because you had to sign up for that moot at the last stage. An opposite example is something like Wismoot, where you sign up in the month of October first week, and the oral rounds happen in April. So you get almost like 7, 8 months at least to prepare. So this is like two opposite examples. But on an average, if you ask me like how much time it takes, one, it depends on the level of the competition. If it's something like an international competition like Stetson, FDI, Jessup, WIS, it takes a lot of time. A lot of time. For WIS, you sign up October first week. The moot happens in April, so it's more like a half yearly affair, right? But let's say if you're doing national competitions, for example, NLS team, National Law School arbitration moot, NLIU arbitration moot, Tankha, or NLU Odisha arbitration moot. Now, these will take you almost around 2 to 3 months. Okay, so it also depends on different competitions, but 2 months at least it will take for you for these national reputed moot competitions. Yes, Depisha, you have a question? I'll come to you, Rafi.
Yes, sir, Dipisha. Sir, interacting with the respondent as being with the other opposite party is talking, arguing, or taking a rebuttal or something like that, and he is arguing on that part. If we interrupt, so that will also give a negative mark from the judges to us.
So, if I understand your question correctly, you are saying if the opposing team is speaking and then you cut them off in the middle. Is that your question?
In the rebuttal.
Okay, the scenario is, let's say I am representing claimant, you are representing respondent. So I'm the claimant, so I do my rebuttals, right?
Yes.
After I finish, then you are speaking, or when I'm speaking, then you are cutting me off in the middle. What's your scenario?
Yeah. That will be the scenario, both the case.
So let's say I have reserved 1 minute and I'm somewhere around
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds. I say something which you think it's so wrong and you interrupt me in the middle. That's a big no. You should.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Yes.
wait when I say thank you, the judges say, Counsel Depisha, your sir rebuttal, then you get the chance to say. Okay. So you shouldn't interrupt in the middle, even if it is so wrong.
Yes, yeah, it is wrong, but sometimes it happens suddenly because I have seen some of the as I am first year of LLB,
Hmm.
and actually I'm from Gujarat
Hmm.
currently,
Hmm.
and our admissions is already due to some of the reasons Gujarat High Court had started the admissions very late.
Hmm.
So I joined this LLB course from October onwards.
Hmm.
So till now there was no moot competition has been attended from our side.
Hmm.
So it will be the first experience if in the future if I do.
Hmm.
So I have just whatever the moot competition yet I have seen 2 3 moot competitions. So in that I have seen some of these respondent and the petitioners both are sometimes they do in the rebuttal time such kind of activity the interruptions. So that will also give a negative mark to the person the team who is interrupting.
Yes, please understand this, Dipisha. I'm not saying that this is not happening. What you are saying is
Yes.
exactly true, that it's already happening in a lot of competitions in India. All I'm saying is, I can only tell you what you should do ideally and what are the best
Okay.
standard practices globally. In any competition in the world, if you follow what I say, you get points for that. I'm not saying that in some competitions people don't interrupt, people don't cut each other off, but that's not the best practices, which I will not recommend you to do that. If you get a judge
Yes.
like me, I put -20 for you just for this. How can you cut somebody off in their allocated time? I know that in the parliament everyone cuts each other off when they are speaking, but let's follow basic rules at least in the moot competitions, right? So please don't do that.
Yes.
It's just that you have seen it. It's good that you asked me this, but that is not recommended. And you get negative points for sure. Okay?
And one more question, sir, I have
Yes.
about the memorial. I have heard these are some of the case laws like that in which people have a 15 to 20 pages of memorial. Some of have a 60 pages of memorial. So
Hmm.
I just in a general tendency, I am just asking that is the maximum how much pages of memorial should be required to be
A
considered?
good competition,
Uh,
Natasha, I'll highly recommend you. You just write Vismoot. Okay, you'll get the website. The good moot competitions will have a detailed guidelines on the font, on the page number, and they'll also provide statement of fact should be maximum 2 pages. They'll also provide maximum number of pages in your memo should be this. Every detail will be mentioned. If it is not mentioned, it's not an equal playing field. As you rightly pointed out, somebody will have a 10-page memo, somebody will have 100-page memo. There is no page limit, right? But the good
yes, sir.
competitions have detailed guidelines. That's something which is relevant when you start, choosing which competitions you are looking to go for. So if that competition does not have a detailed guideline, I'll say it's not a good competition because this is so basic that you have a page limit on the memo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Do you prefer any website for to get the problem to understand about the proper memorials or to write the proper memorials?
Okay, so for this, I remember that Law Octopus has created more like a repository where you have all
Okay.
the best memos from a lot of Indian national competitions, where the best memos will be found. So you have to search it on the Law Octopus website. Plus, also if you go to the Moot website, you get the best memos PDF. So you can actually start looking at those, that what are they doing, and you can actually start looking at them and start learning what you should do in the memos, because these are the best awarded memos.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Also, if I'm not able to answer your questions because we are running a bit short, because there is a small feedback session with the training team, so organizing team. So if you have a question, if we are not able to connect here, please you can write to me and then we can discuss. So yes, next
Yeah.
question is Rafik.
Sir, earlier you are saying about the visiting card. So, have you used your visiting card while participating in India?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
In India also.
I did.
Okay. And my
But
second,
but I will not recommend it to use it in India because some of the people will not take it positively. But international moods, I did thrice. I used it very, what should I say?
exactly. That's why
Very,
you, when you
very
asked the
positive.
question, I said no, because in India, I have never attended any
No, no.
moot court
That's why I said
competition.
that in the
Yes,
Indian national moods you shouldn't. I never said that. But in the
okay.
international ones, yes. But if you are carrying a visiting card, it's of course like, at least from my lens, I don't see a problem. Because I have used it also when I had an interview for an internship at one of the leading law firms in India. And the partner got the attention when he saw my visiting card, and he actually asked me this, that, how do you get this visiting card? I haven't seen a law student having a visiting card. And that's where the whole conversation started. And he was the partner head of that particular law firm in that particular city. So he actually got the attention just because of this. And
So,
he
what
didn't.
impression you got? They got about you when they saw your visiting card?
He was
It,
surprised. That's why he asked me, like, how
it
do you
was
get
a
this?
positive or negative
Of
impact
course,
was.
positive. That's how I got the internship.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
it worked for me. I'm not saying that you should, after this session, everyone does this, and when you don't get selected, you are like, oh, Akash told us the, wrong trick. I never said that. I said for
Yeah, yeah.
international moods, you should use it, and that's why I'm repeating, because Kalpesh sir is also smiling, not for the national moods. So in the
Yeah.
transcript of this, in the video,
Like,
it's recorded. So thank you, Kalpesh sir, for recording this. Otherwise,
yeah,
they would have
yeah. Many
misrepresented.
times they hire the people in the lower state, this kind of show off. Otherwise, they'll feel somebody's, coming from higher,
Yeah,
like, mindset. So almost in
exactly,
India, it will
exactly.
be negative.
Yes.
Negative. It will be, I would say,
Exactly. That's why I don't
99% of the time.
recommend it a lot in the Indian market. But of course, internationally, I'll tell you where you should use it. One is the international news. Two, let's say you go to Hague Academy of International Law. You go to Paris Arbitration Academy. You use your business card. Why? Because different people from different countries are coming. And it's very difficult for you to remember names, especially for us. Chinese names are very different, right? And it's vice versa for them. So that's where the visiting cards help. Okay, so this is recommended. I'm just making it very clear. Okay, what's next question?
Sir, I have next question.
Yes.
You are told about the judges. You are told about the how to body language and all these things. You are explained very well. But just I want to ask question about the opposite participant. So we have any tag to impress our opposite participant. It will be held to us.
I'm not able to understand your question, Rafik. Like, opposite that,
Opposite, is there is any tag or any method or anything that we should impress our opposite party that you know
I don't know why do you want to impress the other party, because the
No,
other
no,
party is
like,
making marks.
like in wrestling, Dhobi Pachad. like
Yes,
working
sir.
in terms.
I'll say, like, I understand where you are coming from. I'll say it's something like this. Like, let's say if, Rafik and I are opposing teams and Kalpesh sir is our judge. So the moment Kalpesh sir comes to the room, I should make the first move and I should speak to Kalpesh sir that the parties have decided the order of the pleadings. So that is how you actually get the attention, that you are the first one to speak to the judges with respect to the administrative part or how you organize this proceeding, all of this. And of course, you have to be collegial. You are competing with the other team, but please understand that you have to be collegial. When I say collegial, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't compete. You compete with some sort of empathy with the other team also. You are being collegial to the other team, which means you are not disrespecting. Let's say the other team, the speaker gets stuck somewhere. You shouldn't smile. You shouldn't be very, rude to the other team. You should be very collegial, which means you should try to help, right? So this is something which you have to do. But please understand this: if you have to impress the other team, you have to be very good with your arguments. As simple as that. But of course, it means that you have to be the first one to speak to the judges. You have to be very respectful. You have to follow time. And let's say when they are, doing the rebuttals and all of this, you have to be mindful of this. You shouldn't be making faces on their arguments. I'll give you an example how you should do this. Replying to your question, let's say they say something and the judge is Kalpesha says that no, this is not the correct position. Then you start doing this. This is red flag, right? Because you are laughing on the other team. This is how you actually, this is something which is a don't, because this goes against the term collegial. Now, this is very basic. This is how you should, focus on getting the attention of the other team. But don't overdo things to impress the other team. You have to impress the bench. Okay?
Yes, sir. One more question is there, if you allow me.
Yes, please.
Sir, this question is also related with the Dipisha asked. Uh, my question is that if opposite team, while explaining rebuttal, and they have put some wrong information, so whether it will be good that we should stop them that and explain judges that this is the wrong
No, you
information.
have to wait after they speak. Kalpesh sir is your judge. He says, counsel for the respondent, do you have a sir rebuttal? Then you say, yes, members of the tribunal, contrary to what the claimant has said, this fact is not provided and they have not discharged the burden of proof, something like this. But you have to be very polite, professional. You shouldn't cut them off in the middle. You have to wait for your turn. That's it. So I'm just repeating what I said to the bishop. It's the same answer.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. No, Priyank, you don't do objections. This is something which happens in cross-examination. Moot court is one thing. Cross-examination moot is another thing. Cross-examination moots, one of the most famous ones is Symbiosis Law School, which I also judge. So in the cross-examination moots, you can get the right of objections. So you don't do it in the moot competitions. You do it in the cross-examination competitions.
Last
Or the
question we
trial
can take on
competition.
from Jitisa.
Yes, sir.
Jitisa's international, how to prepare for international mood, and then we'll close. Jitisa.
I would say, Jitisha, everything what I said yesterday and today applies to the international moods. There is no division that for national moods you should do this and it's not applicable in international moods. Whatever things I said, it applies equally to a national mood as well as to an international mood. It's just that in the international mood, there are some more things which you have to make sure, which is one, your funding, sponsorship, whether your college provides for this, if not external agency, or some funding, your visa, travel, hotels, that's it. But everything specific to the preparation of moods, it remains the same. Sir, I think we are good to.
Yeah, sure. So, thank you very much, Akash. That's why I would again am repeating. It was a perfect end for all the participants, especially the young student. And majority are there the first and second year. So I hope you got a lot of insight from this program, and then you will implement it. Try So many moot courts are happening every day. I keep getting messages that please forward in law teachers group and this. So it's a great opportunity. And then online things are happening. You rightly stated. You can have first hand experience while sitting at your home, your college, and then get some experience. So on behalf of organizing committee, we are grateful to Akash for a valuable time and look forward to see you in future session also. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. To you, your organizing team, also Laugar College of Law and their professors. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. So thank you, participant. Now we'll take some oral feedback from your side. What were your experiences last 1 week? Anything? We have 10-15 minutes for this. So anyone like to start? Your experience, any feedback? Yes, I request participant. Sorry, participant. I request please introduce yourself, name, college, and your feedback. Over to you, Rafiq, and then others. Yeah, please.
Sir, my name is Rafiq Khan. I am from Pune, Maharashtra, and my college is AKK Law New Academy from Pune. Sir, I have never participated in. Sir, some voice is coming actually. Hello.
I request other participant, please keep your mic muted. Other participant, Tahir.
So, sir,
Yeah, Rafiq, over to you.
firstly, I have never attended any moot competition. So, providing this opportunity, really, I got very vast knowledge. So, how to prepare, I can understand now the way how should I approach to the moot court. So, very thank you so much, sir. You have organized us a nice program, and the professors also very nice. They do a lot of information, collective information. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Rafiq. Next, Shiva or other participant also, please raise your hand. Shiva.
Hello, sir. I am J. Prakash here from Vivekananda
Yeah, yeah.
College of Law uh, from Bangalore. So, the moot court, it helps me to understand the basics, all the basic concepts like introduction of moots and how to develop the skills, how to present ourselves in the court, what to speak, what not to speak, how to argue, and many in research, drafting memorial, all basics and all are covered in a week. It is an excellent uh, moot, uh, moot court class which I learned in online, and I have a first moot court in February. This is very helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shiva Prakash. Any other participants? We want some new participants who are not interacting since beginning. Anyone? Michelle or yeah, Dipisa.
Yes, sir. This is Dipisha Acharya. I am a first year LLB student of Maharaja Shaji Rao Gaikwad University of Baroda. And this is the first time I'm attending any moot skill building program. Before that, even I have not attended any moot competitions also. So this was only the initial level of experience which I am taking from you guys, and it was very nice. And all the sirs have answered the questions very nicely without any hesitations, even if they are repeated, then also, as I have seen yet, and it was also properly answered. And I'm happy to joining this course. So to build my skills and everything in a basic way also, like what to be considered in the memorials, what to be your searching parts and everything, how sir has explained earlier. And about these basics, I am really happy to understand about the basics because it is very required to follow the basics etiquettes in the moot court, which also gives a negative marks from the judge side, as I also asked about it. So thank you very much, sir, for uh, and also thank you to you too, because in your team also have given us a very nicely this in a very short time the videos also. So whenever I have not attended, I can able to attend the videos. So that has also helped me out very nicely. Thank you,
Thank
sir, and
thank you.
thank you, your
Thank
team
you.
too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dipisha. Any other couple of feedback, then we'll close. Anyone? Yes, thank you, Atik. Anybody from Sargakon Law College, Simbashi Law College, Pune? Anyone?
Sir, I am Rimsha Palki from VM Salgaonkar College of Law, and
Yes, yes.
from this event, from this event, I have learned many important skills and very much knowledge, like what is required for mooting, and yeah, everything was so nice. I understood many things, and I will implement these things in future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rimsha. Any other last feedback? Anyone? We'll obviously floating out feedback form shortly, but before that, we like that's why we planned this oral feedback something very different. Yes, anyone last feedback? I think people are hungry. Patil sir, yeah. So we'll take last Tahir Mustaq, and then we'll ask Patil sir to speak a few words.
Uh,
Yes, Tahir.
Hi, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. Sir, I'm from M. Krishna Law College, Hassan. I felt this is the first such course that I've attended. It was very interesting. Thank you for organizing such a event for us all, and especially the first session that we had, with Mr. Ayat Ansari, when we went through an actual mood case and discussed the various aspects of it. I found that session very interesting. Hope going forward, more such sessions or such events could be organized. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tahir Mustaq. Yes. So I request all the participants, please, see, already we have shared all the recordings. Please go through once, at least once, right? Based or not based, no problem. You just revise, it will be great help for you in upcoming months or years, I would say. Now, I request participant to say a few things before we end, and then Paul Madam over to you. Participant, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Kalpesh, and it's been a great experience. It's been a busy week for us also, because every
Yes, yes.
day we were coming home and waiting for 7 o'clock so that we start attending this program. It was very interactive. The youngsters, in the form of Faiz, Professor Faiz, Akash, and Maashe, they actually gave us a lot of inputs about how to go about this moot court. And your effort, Kalpesh, you can't ignore that. And my team also is there, led by Pearl, the young team, led by Pearl and Siddhi, and who is the other one? Shreya.
So
So
good mix of
they
senior, middle, and young ones. So I'm middle.
you are middle
So
aged, others are all young men.
yeah, putting
So
yourself.
it was a great experience, because I do felt that there are small minute things which has been ignored by most of the coaches, has been covered by this course. And I hope students take maximum utilization of this thing, because handling of a feedback today, Professor Akash was mentioning about how you respond to a feedback. I think it's a very good tact, that smile and say thank you. That's the best way to handle a feedback, rather than countering their views. And how to wake up in the morning on the day of the event, and what you should do and reach the competition venue, and handle the pressure. So these are the parts which are being ignored by most of the coaches, which has been covered. I hope all the students will take maximum utilization of these things. And I thank everyone. I thank the participants, and I hope we are going to build a new crop of good mooters, and ultimately great advocates. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. I did so many program in last 2 3 years, but it was one of the best, I would say, out of top three. Right, something out of box, and then it came from your side. I just was a part of this activity we did mooting, but this was very different what we did in last couple of months on that mooting subject itself. That was very different, and I would say on personal note. So I request Paul ma'am over to you, and then say something. That's and then we'll close.
Good evening, one and all. So, the support of the management and the conveners of this course, our principal, Dr. Shabir Ali Ji, and Dr. B.S. Patil, a big favorite I noticed, is gratefully acknowledged. Sir Kalpesh, sir, your meticulous and unstinting collaboration of you, sir, our MOU partner and founder of Pro Bono India, is truly, sir, appreciated. The gracious teaching of our esteemed resource persons, Dr. M.R.K. Prasad, Dr. B.S. Patil, and of the external faculty, Shri Faiz Ansari, Shri Akash Gupta, and Shri Harsh Mahashet, truly receives our deepest gratitude. The assistance given by our system administrator, Siddhi Rahul, and accountant, Avesh Lanjekar, is sincerely recognized. I'm much obliged to my fellow coordinators, assistant professors Siddhi Naik and Shreya Shah for their unwavering support and for all the many contributions they've silently done for this course. And you, dear participants, a big round of applause for being simply amazing. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am, for your and notes for this particular program, and then thank you, participant, for joining. And then I could see enthusiasm amongst you. So please utilize, get maximum. Don't take it as a certificate course, adding into CV, but so implement this thing whatever learned in last 1 week. So thank you very much. Good night. Wish you all the best.